All right, let's move on from that and go on to the next game we'll cover, where I'm not as cheerful as Noah was with his team's results. So Liverpool were hosting, or no, we're on the road, I believe. I can't even remember what happened, to be
Yeah,
honest
you're on
with
the
you.
road.
Yeah, we were on the road. Um, we lost. There's no other way to slice it. Like, it, it's so
Well,
funny watching this
I
team
didn't
play.
watch it because I was watching the other game, and you were 2-0 down, right? That's my understanding.
We're down 2-0, fought back to equalize. Like, and when you watch the goals, it just looks like it, I don't know who to blame. I really don't know where the breakdown happens specifically to say it's because of this. And then, because I thought the first goal that the Cherries scored was a well earned goal. And you know what? You fought hard for that. Defender, should you have been closer? Like, should you have had a better angle on him to make the shot more difficult? At, you know, I think he had a step on the defender, so that's one of the reasons he was able to get the shot on net. I don't think Allison could have done really much more in his angle. It's so hard. Like, when I look back at it a few times and try to, like I said, pinpoint where the mistake happened, but it was just that felt too easy for that goal to happen, and that's happened a lot this season. And then, like I said, then we're down 2-0, and it's just like, all right, we come back, we won just before half, then off of a Van Dyke header, and then um, my boy Szoboszlai equals it up, right? Beautiful free kick again. He's been on fire as of late, and I think I've touched on this before. They just seem to, when it comes to late, they just can't seem to just hold on to even a draw. Usually it's like they're up 2-1 or 1-0, and then they end up giving up the late equalizer. It's they just to me it was just too simple. Again, when it comes to breaking down Liverpool late in games, that's the time to put pressure on them because they seem to. Sorry, they make subs and they're not as defensive sound after. I don't know if it's the midfield just loses some form of synchronicity. I'm not sure what the issue is, but there's just seems to be a problem late in games where we just can't seem to hold the fort, and we're always conceding. And like, what I don't even know what more to say because, like I said, last week Champions League, a good win. What 3-0? I think it was three
Yeah.
nothing against Marseille. Comfortable win on the road, hostile environment. Probably, uh, you would say maybe more would be more hostile than what you're getting at home in England. Yet a totally different performance. You know, I don't like I said, and you last week I did when I did the Milo spiel on Liverpool. I I'm not happy with Slot, and I'm still not happy with him because I just don't know what I'm getting week in, week out of this team. And it's honestly, it's like flip a coin to see if we're going to get a good performance, a win, a draw, an ugly game. Like there's just no consistency. And I'm sure even anyone who watches highlights can see it. Like it's well, the one consistent thing, as I just mentioned before, is the lack of holding the fort late in the games,
Yeah, you can
right?
see it though. Like I watched the last 5 minutes because I guess whatever game I was watching, I flipped over and watched the last 5 minutes, and I saw it's 2-2. I figured, oh, this is gonna finish 2-2. And then when it went in, I was like, ooh, my first reaction, Sean's not gonna be happy. But like it just, I think ultimately the difference between last year and this year is I don't think we've said it. I said it to you 1,000 times this year. I think Van Dyke's drop off has been happening last year, and I think he got away with it. This year, I think he's been found out. He spends more time arguing and moaning and complaining. And I think defensively, that middle two needs to be rebuilt for Liverpool. I do think they're just soft at the back in the middle. And I don't know whether he's lost a step, but he doesn't seem to be able to read the game as he once did and make up for it. And I had this conversation with somebody once when about Rio Ferdinand. Once he kind of lost a step or two, you kind of could get some joy out of him. And I think that's kind of what's happened lately. But again, I just felt that I just don't think Slot's tactics are right. I don't know what it is about Slot, but I just don't seem to have any faith that he's gonna figure it out. And I just he looks a little bit. He looks if you watch his press conference, as somebody who's not a Liverpool fan, he looks very perplexed of why what he's getting out of his team. And I just don't think, I just said it about Forest. I don't think their summer recruitment was good enough, and yet they spent how much money, right? I think Ekatike is the only one I look at and go, well, that looks like a really good buy. The rest are more like you could take them or leave them, right? And I think that's a part of the problem. I think they also spent all that money on attackers when I think they should have really strengthened the defense. And when you see Mark Gahey leave for 20 million to City, if I'm Liverpool, I would have spent that 20 million in a heartbeat to go and get him because I think they needed him more than City needs him.
Well, they have to be kicking themselves in the ass over that one. Like, let's be real. That was the signing that should have happened in the summer. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They had that deal literally wrapped up, and if they only put more effort into that, look, I'm a massive Isak fan. Once I knew they were after him, it's like let's go get him. But at the same time, I don't know why they didn't still like negotiate for both players. Like really, what would have stopped? What was stopping them than putting? You already know what's happening with the Isak thing. Let that play out. You could have signed Mark Gahey during that all that fuss
Yeah,
and let the Isak
I
play
don't
out
I don't
late,
disagree with you.
right? So like from my perspective, I'm frustrated. Now, maybe they didn't see him as the heir to Van Dyke. I don't see again. It, I'm just trying to understand why everything just didn't end. Like even come January, once the transfer window opened, why they weren't all in together?
Yeah.
Because it seemed as if he was had to come to us before. Either it's where we were in the table. I don't know if that's that big of a deal for him. I'm not sure, but I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you.
No, I don't think
But
it's anything to do with the table. I think at the end of the day, I think he was keen to go to you guys. But I think I said to you at the end of the summer when you missed out on him, I said I don't think you'll get him because I think what you're going to end up happening is people are going to come through the season and they're going to figure out that they need him, and Man City needs him, and Man City signed him. And and if Real Madrid, I heard Real Madrid were looking at him too, but Real Madrid didn't want to pay any money out. If he got to the summer, I think he would have gone to Real Madrid. But at the end of the day, City came in, they offered the money, and as always, City will get what they want because it's no different than Semenyo, right? It's just a bit baffling, if I'm honest, because I think Liverpool didn't address the one area that they really, really probably could have done with a little bit more reinforcement in. Because I think even Kanate at the start of the season, you and me have sat on here and said that he looks like a mistake waiting to happen, and I think that's generally been their issue, right? It defensively they're just not keeping clean sheets, and that's the play in front of them that caused the difference, right?
yeah, you're 100% right. And my personal opinion, they needed to address, as you said, the defender this, especially this January transfer one, right? We're lacking depth. Like, the young kid that you signed in the off season got injured, so he was supposed to be part of your depth. You haven't replaced him. Like who?
Yeah.
And right now you have um, Kanate away due to personal reasons with his father passing. Um, you know, give him his time. But I love Joey Gomez. I'll always be a Gomez fan. The problem is his health issues, and we'll leave it at that. And the point is, we have no depth in that position right now, right? I don't know if they plan on using. Well, I guess they'll use one of their young academy, or they'll play somebody. They'll play like Endo out of position. Some days I forget he's even still on the roster, but um, look, that's where again I have to question. Does Slot know what he's doing? right? And
I don't know if you're
maybe
going to get that answer.
yeah, the only other thing I can think of is the club has made a decision that, you know what, you spent a lot of money in the off season, and if you can't figure out with these guys, then you're not the right man for the job. And that's why they're not spending any more money this window. And, you know, it's not as if there isn't other candidates lying in wait that they would jump on if the opportunity arose, right? So I'm not trying to stir the pot, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I do think it's, but I think also by the same token, just to wrap it up, I would say it's not all on Slot. At the end of the day, there's two other people that make transfer decisions for Liverpool, right? In that room, like I said about Edu at Forest, they got stuff wrong this year, and I think it's not. You just can't blame it on Slot. If guys don't work out, then it ultimately the managers. It's not that isn't on the managers. Slot can't get out there and kick the ball, and sometimes it's easy to blame the manager. He's always going to be the first person that gets blamed, but sometimes you buy the wrong guy, and it's how you move on from the wrong guys and get the right guys in is the difference between being good leadership in your club and not being good leadership in your club. Just not to circle it back to Forest, but today that Villa got Douglas Luiz back via Forest back to and again I think Forest wouldn't play him in the Premier League because he doesn't look fit. He doesn't look like he's the right fit for the club. He doesn't look like he's in the right headspace. Juventus moved him on for a reason, and Forest were like, look, you want him back, you can have him, and you move on from your mistakes. And I think that is the part where I think Liverpool needs to, in this little bit of the window that's remaining, is maybe move on from a couple of players that haven't worked out, and then just try and bring in some fresh blood. And it sounds like Andy Roberts is off to Tottenham, and I generally don't really agree with that move. I think it's a bad move for him and a bad move for Liverpool. But again, I think he wants to play football, right?
Yeah, that I'm like. Here's my thing is, I see what's happening right now is, and it's a change, right? And you're gonna see a, a lot of people out, a lot of guys that just they don't fit who or if we're saying Slot stays, I see a lot of guys that aren't new being shipped out. A lot of those guys that have been here for a few years that they're going to feel just don't fit the style of play they want, and um, because they're shifting away. Like you can see, they fully shifted away from what Liverpool had been playing for the past few years. Last season was a slight tweak on that, but that worked in their benefit. This year it's been a total shift. I'm not down for the shift because I find you're not actually playing to the strengths of the players you have on the pitch. And more often than not, other teams are easy if they have a low block and defend against you. They can't seem to break the teams down. And teams counterattack and knowing that you're slow on defense and you play a high line. And if you catch either your defenders slipping, boom, it's a potential opportunity for a goal right there. So yeah, as usual, hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and don't forget to hit the like button and give some feedback. We love the communication, and like I said, you can say hi to Noah when you bump into him on the airport or at a game or at some kind of away trip. Hopefully,
Yeah, I do appreciate it. It was very nice. It was very nice to get to talk to people, and that's a big thank you for the guys that do watch us and support us, and it is very much appreciated.
Well, I mean, you and I have somewhat experiences locally with regard to Toronto FC and some of the other stuff we've done with, whether it be the Twitter Spaces show or the podcast. So it's always cool when somebody who you've never, if you walk down the street, you wouldn't know who they were, but they can recognize you simply for what we do here. So, thank you. We appreciate all of you. And that's it for me this week. Noel, anything else?
No, thanks. It's good to be back.
All right, folks. That's it then. Catch you guys next week.